From Pune, this is the International Service in English.
Welcome to the next 30 minutes of program from Adventist World Radio.
In our program today, we bring music from heritage singers and Jody Malashenko.
A story for children. Why Mr. Jordan
Jody Malashenko.
wouldn't sit down.
Followed by a
Story for children. Why
health message on how one can
Mr. Jordan wouldn't sit down.
prevent common cold.
Ending our program
Followed by a health message on
with a thought from God's Word
how one can prevent
on the topic, the Christian hope.
common cold.
Ending our program with this is Maureen.
This is Sharad.
Thought from God's Word on the topic, and you are listening to the Adventist Word, the Christian hope. This is Maureen Radio, the voice of hope.
This is Sharad.
And you
Again, let's hear a song, Sweet, Sweet
listening to the Adventist World Radio,
Spirit.
the voice of hope.
To begin, let's hear a song, Sweet, Sweet Spirit.
There's a sweet spirit, sweet, sweet. It is in this place, Spirit. In this place.
without a doubt, in praise we'll know
will have been revived. Oh, that we have been revived. When shall we shall
You heard a song by Heritage Singers on Adventist World Radio.
And now a story
You heard a song by
for children will be told by our friend
Heritage Singers on Adventist World
entitled, Why Mr.
Radio.
And now Jordan wouldn't sit down. Story for children will be told by our
It was an awful thing to do.
friend Diamond entitled,
Joe knew it even before he did
Why Mr. Jordan wouldn't
it. But the
sit down.
It was an Eton boys were so insistent, awful thing to do. Joe that he couldn't say no. Knew it even before he did it. You know I don't eat. But the Steaton bought fish, he protested weakly. Boys were so insistent that nobody's asking you. He couldn't say no. Too, but it won't hurt you. You know I don't eat to help us get them for Mom. Fish, he protested weakly. We promised to bring. Nobody's asked fish for supper tonight. Asking you too, but it won't. Joe didn't know what to say. Hurt you to help us get. For a long time he had wanted them for Mom. We promised to be friends with the Steaton boys, to bring back fish for supper tonight, and he was happy when they had invited. Joe dictated him to go know what to say, for along with them, because a long time he had wanted to be. It was the first time they had seemed to know friends with the Steaton boys, and him. He was happy when they had Well, his voice dictated him to go fishing with him, to twist into a question mark them, because it was Sure you will. This time they had seemed to know. George, the elder of the two brothers, him. Others placed a hand on George, his shoulder. There are a voice seemed to twist into a question. To fish tied to a string mark, near the bank. Someone, sure you will. George, the else caught them. But if we, elder of the two brothers, hurry, we can get them before he placed a hand on Joe's shoulder. He comes back. All there are a lot of have to do is walk to the edge tied to a string near the edge of the bank and pull them out of the bank. Someone else out of the water, real fast, caught them. But if we since Phil and I all hurry, we can get them before than you. We'll stand close. He comes back. Goes beside you, as if we all you have to do is what we're talking. That way, walk to the edge of the bank and pull. Nobody will see you. Pull them out of the water. Phil joined in the scheme, real fast. Then we'll act as if nothing, since Phil and I taller than you happened, and go home. We'll stand close beside. Joe looked at you, as if we had the boys, then back to the bar were talking. That way, basket on his arm, and thought nobody will see you. About the teachings of his Christian, Phil joined in the scheme. It would be steep. Then we'll act as if nothing, and I can't do that, happened, and go home. George laughed. Such a silly idea. Joe looked at the boys. Look, we want you to be our, then back to the basket on his arm, friend, but we like, and thought about the pals who aren't scared of their shadow, teachings of his Christian home. Joe felt like it would be stealing, and I protesting again. Can't do that. But he didn't. All right, George laughed. Sit, he said. Let's get it over. Just silly idea. Over with. Sure, the brother. Look, we want you to be ours, exclaimed, and to get a friend, but we like together. The three boys walked, pals who aren't scared of their shadow, to the edge of the lake. Joe felt like where a string of fine fish testing again, tangled in the water. He didn't. All right, plan worked out the way, he said. Let's get it. George had said it would, and it was over with. Sure, the brother wasn't long before the boy exclaimed, and together was standing in the Steetons' kitchen. Together, the three boys walked in. Their mothers to the edge of the lake seemed delighted with the gift, where a string of fine fish, so many tangled in the water. The fish in such a short and work time, she set out the way George had said it would, pride in her voice, and it was, your wasn't long before good fishermen, for the boy, in fact, was standing in, brought in such Steetons' kitchen, a good catch, there, that mother seemed, I'll have to invite with the gift our neighbors to so share our dinner. Many fish. Joe did in such a short sleep time. Well, that night, she said, it seemed pride in her voice, as if a heavy blanket of guilt. You're good fishermen, covered in him, and yet you've brought in such could not shake it a good catch that I'll have to. He awoke to invite the next morning our neighbors to share out the same dinner. Comfortable sense. Joe didn't sleep. Well, that nothing he could night. It seemed think of as if to defend himself, a heavy blanket of guilt was covered him to ease his conscience him, and he could not shake it. He didn't feel like off eating. He awoke the next playing or doing morning with the same anything else uncomfortable a sensation. The close of a miserable day, thing he could think of. He had just set to defend himself down with a book was when his father to eat called him. Ease his conscience. He didn't. Mr. Jordan wants to feel like eating. See you playing, Joe, or doing anything else. Wonders why the visitor wouldn't. At the close of a acceptable day's parents' invitation day, he had just set to come down with him to the house. The book went, no thanks, father called. Thanks, I haven't him. I'm Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan had said, wants to see you. I just want to talk to Joe. Joe wondered for a moment why they wouldn't. I thought my visitor wouldn't accept to be interested in a job. His invitation to come into the house. Mr. Jordan owned a house. Good, no thanks, door. And Joe ran. I haven't time out. Mr. Jordan, being very pleased, had said, at the prospect of I work. Just want to talk to Joe. It was a beautiful for a moment night outside. I the sky thought he might be in. I was like a busted in a job. In enameled bucket. Mr. Joe overflowing with sudden owned a drill of fish. Good store. Joe wished, and Joe ran. He would stand out, feeling very up, thinking about, pleased at the fish. Every aspect of everywhere he looked at work. It was seemed he saw as a beautiful night outside. The sky, won't you say I was like down? He offered blue enameled Mr. Jordan a bucket porch chair, overflowing with no silver fish. Thank you. What Joe wished I have. He would say, I can stop thinking about Faye as well. Fish. Everything. Everywhere he looked, it isn't a so seemed. He saw it called Joe them. The man's voice was sharp. Won't you and the down? He offered